Did you know that you could start a business with a 401k? Yep, it's true. Hey, my name's Kenner French. I'm with VastSolutionsGroup.com. Here we're with Vast Voice, the podcast arm of VastSolutionsGroup.com. We're going to be talking about ways to fund businesses if you don't have cash in pocket. In this one, we're going to be talking about using your 401k assets. My name is Kenner French. I'm now on the board of VastSolutionsGroup.com. Been with Vast Solutions Group and its affiliated entities since 2006. Let's go. Let's get this rocking. Here we go. And I'm going to speak in general terms. In today's world, it's, tougher and tougher to find, money to start businesses. Banks are kind of clamoring, closing their hands sometimes. We don't have any dough for it, even though really right now is probably a good time to be supporting small business owners. But, you can invest in your business with IRA dough, ultimately 401k. So while most people are aware, the option of using a 401k to purchase a home, depending on the circumstances, most truly are not aware that you can also use your assets, your 401k assets, to fund a business. Well, let's go over some of the specifics. This is going to be a brief overview, but it should get you going so you're armed and you understand that, yes, you can use 401k assets or retirement assets to set up a business and fund a business. Now, let's talk about the specifics. So, you got to first set up a C corporation. Talk to your accountant, or your attorney. You can do it yourself. Either way, go to LegalZoom, set it up, right? And by the way, I should be careful when I say LegalZoom. You could go online. I'm not specifically guiding you towards LegalZoom, but I'm just throwing out that as an option for some cases. Number one, so you set up a C corp. Now, number two, have a corporation adopt a 401k plan. So it's a retirement plan that's usually, it could be a profit sharing plan or, whatever the plan is. It's got the plan assets have got allow to be invested in company stock. Now you can roll over your 401k from another company or your IRA in your C corporation then. So you got to keep in mind you can have multiple sources and even have multiple people involved, by the way, your spouse or someone who works for the company, et cetera, or even people outside the company. And then what you do is you issue stock and transfer it to the profit sharing plan in this case. This is in exchange for cash that was in the plan in effect. Right? So right there's four things. Set up a C corp, have the corporation adopt the 401k, roll over your assets, and then issue stock and transfer it to the plan itself. Now, you can use this cash to go out and invest money in your business. The process is simple, maybe more simple than it sounds, but you can do it with little help for the most part. You can call our office, by the way, or check us out on the web at www.vastsolutionsgroup.com. Some companies will set it up for you, soup to nuts, for $5,000, maybe $10,000 if it's a bigger situation, and sometimes they'll administer the plan for $800, sometimes $1,500 a year, depending on the circumstances. Now, if you're not already familiar with the process, it's important to get some help. Potentially, it depends on the circumstances. Right now, let's talk about some of the potential pitfalls. This is kind of important. There's a lack of diversification. Obviously, you're invested only in your company, as an example. If you're putting all your retirement, funds into one investment, your business, you got to be careful, because if that thing fails, so does your retirement plan, potentially. It might be prudent to have other investments, by the way. Also, tax issues. The IRS expects you to operate the business on a daily basis. Absentee owners aren't looked upon favorably. Potentially, that could be an audit claim, but depends on the circumstances. What are we at? Let's just say we're at number 3, proper evaluation of the investment. If you purchase a business and you pay too much, you can be penalized if the business turns out to be worthless. So that's a fraudulent transaction, potentially. And then here's one, your salary. There's two things to consider as your salary goes. The IRS expects you to pay a dividend, if you will, of some sort. Also, you're taking some sort of risk if you pay yourself from the retirement money, at least potentially. If you're paying yourself well and not paying a dividend, the IRS is going to look at that closely. That could be an audit risk. Now, here you have the nuts and bolts to at least get it started. Your 401k can effectively be used to fund your business if you take the time to do it the right way, right? Now, at the same time, experts seem to agree that if you have about $45,000 or less in your retirement account, it's better maybe potentially just to take the money and pay the penalties rather than go through the expense of setting up the corporation, the qualified plan, et cetera, et cetera. Again, you can totally own your own business. Even if you can't get a loan from a bank by using your 401k, which is pretty cool. Just do your research, find a knowledgeable professional. If you think you can't do it all in yourself, if everything works out, hey, who knows? Maybe it'll be the next Google that's in that you've just invested in. But this is just one more way of getting money into a business startup or a business that you wouldn't otherwise be able to do. So if you have any questions, please feel free to call us. We work on these all the time at vastsolutionsgroup.com. And once again, my name is Kenneth French, here to help. We're trying to be a resource for the small business owner. We work with mainly, some bigger, higher net worth individuals who own corporations. But here we're talking about, trying to help the ma and pa, if you will, trying to, someone might be struggling to, make ends meet, but they might have a business goal in mind. And this is at least one way to potentially fund it. Once again, Kenneth French, I appreciate you taking the time to listen.